Hi, and welcome to another episode of Foxy Business Hour. I'm LaDonna Garvin, and today I have an amazing lawyer that's coming on. His name is Ed Gegan, and he is from Gegan Law.
I want to do it like SNL. Hello.
Hi, Ed.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. How you doing, LaDonna?
Good.
Thank you for having me on.
No problem. Thank you for coming on. So you are the owner of Gegan Law, and y'all do estate planning and probate. Is there anything else that y'all specialize in?
We do business litigation as well,
Okay.
but the estate planning part is the part I love.
Okay.
That's my home base.
And we also have a webinar that's coming at the beginning of next month on June 2nd, where you're going to be teaching us about estate planning for business, right?
Yes, especially how you can get the most out of your estate planning attorney by asking the right questions.
Awesome. I am really, really happy for that, because what we try to do on this show is try to give businesses information that you wouldn't normally get. When I started my business, there was a lack of information and I made a lot of mistakes. So I wanted to do this channel so that we could.
Same thing happens in law school. They don't teach us anything about how to actually run a law practice. Nothing.
Well, so funny you should say that. People were, I don't know if it's for law, but for accounting, well, don't they teach you how to do accounting at school? And I'm like, no, they teach you where to look. They don't teach you like real work. Like you can do a balance sheet and you can do a P&L, but I didn't really know accounting until I started working at companies.
And someone brought you a shoebox.
And so, well, when I was in corporate accounting, there was a lot less shoe boxes.
Okay, good.
But yeah, is that the same thing with law? Is like when you go to law school, are you actually trained to be a lawyer, or?
You know, they train you to be a judicial intern for a judge. I mean, you're really focused on how are the cases written, why are they written that way, why are they overturned, and how do appellate courts view differing opinions. It's not so much about the actual advocacy of representing a particular client, and they don't let you really specialize much. There's some electives in law school, but once you get out of law school, it's really best if you can specialize in just one or two areas and really niche down and learn those areas.
So what made you decide to go to law school in the first place?
That was a long journey. I started out as a physics major, astrophysics. I was going to work like on space physics research projects, and I actually worked on one that was going to go up on the next Challenger shot before the Challenger blew up. When the Challenger blew up, and I learned that I really don't like doing experiments very much, I decided to go into policy analysis. So I was a policy analyst for Maryland State. Well, not the legislature, for the governor's office, Office of Management and Budget. And I did that for a while until I learned that politicians do not listen to analysts who actually present them with facts. They want to know, what's going to get me the most votes and what's going to please the people the most. So I figured if people weren't going to listen to my advice, I should go to law school and charge them an hourly rate. So I went to law school. My parents had been pushing me to go to law school. My father was a law professor. Two of my sisters also went to law school. So we all turned into lawyers. And that's how I ended up in law school. I was in my late 20s when I was in law school.
So I have to ask, if your whole family is lawyers, how's Christmas? Do y'all like set it up as a courtroom?
No.
That's what I imagine is like when you have like a family of like, because you imagine lawyers and you think they argue all the time and they.
Well, that part, yes. My father was an arch conservative Republican. My mom was an arch feminist liberal Democrat. And I would sit between them as we watched the news, like every night, the McNeil-Lehrer Report, PBS. It was back when we had like 3 channels. And so I got a first-class view on how to negotiate between two very different but equally valid points of view.
Yeah. Okay. Did they ever play you against them? What do you think, Ed?
No. I mean, I did sometimes try to explain to each of them, this is how mom is thinking. She doesn't know why her answer is the right answer. She just knows it's the right answer because she thinks intuitively. Dad thinks it very logically, and he doesn't care whether the conclusion is completely absurd. If that's where the facts lead me, then that's where he's going to go.
Yeah, that is, logic can end up doing that.
You need a balance.
I like to think that I try to balance it, but I am the rule says this, so we do this type of person.
And that happens in the law quite a lot, where the rule says this, and we don't care how unfair that result is.
Yeah, and then because I've had friends that they've had law situations where they're like, I don't know. I didn't know that was a thing. And the absence of, it's a thing where it's like, just because you didn't know the law doesn't mean that it doesn't apply to you.
Well, there's something along those lines in criminal law that knowledge of law or ignorance of law is no excuse.
Yes,
okay.
That. And so I've seen people get like fined and stuff because they didn't know, like that kind of stuff. But I mean, it is what it is.
I remember when I was in law school, I got some sort of a ticket for not having a registration sticker on my car. And I had come from Maryland. I still had Maryland plates on my car. And they didn't require registration down there. So I came in and I made like a constitutional argument in front of the traffic court judge that, there was no notification to me when I moved into New York that I needed to have annual inspections. And he just said, I'll knock your ticket down to $10. It's like, all right, I'm done. I'll take the $10.
I am not shocked that you did that.
Yes.
I am not shocked at all. So you go through law school and you graduate. What did you start off in estate planning, or did you start off somewhere else?
No, I started out with a boutique. That means a very small commercial litigation, bankruptcy litigation firm that hired me. Actually, I interned for them while I was in law school. And I did business and commercial litigation for probably a decade or so before I started doing any estate planning. And the litigation stuff is the stuff that you see on TV. They're in court, you're taking depositions, or you're arguing in front of the judge, and the judge says overruled, and the jury is there. And it's all very exciting, and it's unpredictable what's going to happen. But it's also very stressful. And clients want to know, are we going to win? And you can't give them an answer. In fact, in Florida bar rules, you can't promise an outcome. And they want to know, how much is this going to cost me? And you can't answer that question either, because I've had cases that settled in 2 days. I've had cases that went up on appeal. So there's no way to predict what's going to happen. So that's one of the things that actually drove me into doing estate planning, was that in estate planning, there's no other side that you're competing against. There's no adversary. You can just listen to the clients, ask them questions, try to learn what kinds of problems are they going to likely face in the future if one of them becomes incapacitated or if they die. Ask them questions about their kids. What are your hopes and dreams and fears and concerns about them? And then I can spot the problems that they're likely going to have ahead of time and help them put together a plan that prevents those problems or avoids them entirely.
Yeah, until I met you, I didn't know that dying was so complicated. I thought you put a will. The will has to be like, you write a will, the will, and you have to follow the will. I don't know if it's like just been years and it's like, this is how it's just come over time to this complication, but
estate planning attorneys call those fill-in-the-blank wills I love you wills. They basically say, if I die, everything goes to my spouse. And if my spouse dies before me, everything goes to the kids. And there's no real planning out about, well, you have a business. Who's going to run that business? Who's going to sell that business? Does anyone even have the authority to do anything with the business? Do you have a license to run that business? And those are the issues that business owners need to ask questions about with their estate planning attorney. Because your will can say, yes, everything goes to my wife. But if you're a plumber and your wife doesn't have a plumbing license, that doesn't do much good.
Right. Very true. Or if nobody in the family wants to run that business.
Or if one of them wants to run the business and most of your assets are value of your estate is in that business, and one of your kids wants to run the business, the other one doesn't, what does the other kid get disinherited? Those are things that we need to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes... Yeah, that... I guess we ended up complicating our lives, and that's what got us to estate plans.
The whole idea, it sounds complicated, but the idea is to simplify things and avoid problems before they happen. Sometimes those problems are just interpersonal relationships. Do the kids get along? Would they be good business partners if you gave them the business to run together? Is one of them better with money? Is one of them better with medical decisions? And just try to make use of them in their strongest capacities.
Every time I hear about families running business, I think of Succession. Have you seen that show?
Yes, love that show.
And I'm like, yeah, families shouldn't go into business with each other. I'm hesitant to hire my son to come in and do some stuff. Cause it's, I don't want to put, I've already been their mother. I don't want to be their boss too.
Never hire someone that you would feel uncomfortable firing.
That's it, right there.
If you feel comfortable firing your kid, then, they could be a great asset then.
I don't know. They're adults now, so I don't I've taken a step back.
That's when they're hireable. Now they can actually do something for you.
But it's you tell employees things that they might not like about themselves. You're not great with attention to detail.
That sounds like you're thinking of a specific circumstance.
Yes. And this job requires a lot of attention to detail. So
we're an accounting office.
So it's things like that, because you don't want to, I don't know, at this point, as a parent, I have the great job of just being able to go be a cheerleader. You can do it. This is what I would do, but really the decision's up to you. Whereas in the past, you have to go, no, you are not doing that. That's insane.
I have told my youngest son, because I had more experience by the time he came along, that my job is not to prevent you from making mistakes. My job is to help you make the right kinds of mistakes and survive them.
And learn from them, yeah.
That's how you learn, is you make mistakes. Good judgment comes from experience. Experience comes from bad judgment.
All of my kids hate this thing, but I try very much to, this is my motto for parenting, is it's not my job for you to like me or for me to make you happy. It's my job to make you a functioning member of society so that when you turn 18, yes, you can go off into the world and you don't have to have me there. And my kids hate that, because I'll go, what's my job?
And that's where estate planning kind of picks up, because not everyone is making the best decisions at the age of 18. Think back to when we were 18, although you went into the military, but you were forced to make the right decisions. You can use your estate plan to provide guardrails for your kids, to incentivize them to make good decisions and follow a particular path in life that would be best for them. And you can tailor it as much as you want to each kid's strengths and weaknesses.
I will tell you, you can still make mistakes in the military. That's why we have court-martials.
Oh, okay.
Or no. Oh my God. Yeah, it's a court-martial.
Yeah, it's a court-martial.
Yeah, that's why we have that whole, there's actually lawyers.
Oh, yeah.
That are in JAG. There's a whole JAG court. And when you want a divorce and you're in deployment, you can get one of those. And if you, estate planners and all sorts of kind of stuff, criminal lawyers.
I thought everyone in the armed forces was required to have at least a basic will or estate plan before they went into combat zones.
You are. You sit with, so when you go on deployment, it's like this big thing. You end up going through all these stations, and one of them is sitting with either I'm not sure if she was just a paralegal, the person that I talked to, or a lawyer, but they sit you down and they go, what do you want to happen if you die? And they fill out all the paperwork, you sign it, and then they keep a copy, you keep a copy, and you go on.
Yep. Things get a little bit more complicated when you have kids And then when you get divorced and remarried and have more kids, and now you've got kids that can be accidentally disinherited if you don't organize everything correctly. Those are one of my favorite clients, are blended families, because accidental disinheritances happen all the time.
How would someone accidentally get disinherited?
When you get remarried, there's a tendency to start putting things into joint ownership, or to say, well, I want to keep my spouse in the same comfort level that they had during our lifetime in case I die first. And so you give everything to the spouse, trusting that the spouse is going to divide everything up amongst the step kids and her kids or his kids. And it doesn't always work that way.
Because you've given it to him or her, they now get to decide what they do with
They
it.
have that power. I actually was hired once by a widow of a younger widow of a wealthy man who brought their revocable living trust, their joint trust, to me and said, can I make changes to this to leave everything just to my daughter instead of his kids? And I reviewed it, and there were no protections whatsoever in the document for the stepkids. All power had been given to the widow to make whatever changes she want. And so she was my client, and I said, yeah, you could do that. And she said, great, let's do that. So I was the evil lawyer in that particular instance, because my duty is to my client.
I mean, I wouldn't call you I don't think that the evil is on you. I think the evil is probably...
No, I just implemented the evil.
Okay, but there's an argument to be made that a customer goes to McDonald's and eats the hamburger and gains weight and then has a heart attack. Is it McDonald's fault that they just provided the hamburger?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't make you go to the McDonald's, pay your money for the hamburger. And that's what I would say for that.
This is an issue lawyers deal with in law school quite a lot. That you may be the one representing the guilty person. You know they're guilty because they told you they're guilty. It's still your responsibility to protect them, represent them, force the state to meet the burden of beyond a reasonable doubt. And if they can't meet that burden, your guilty client goes free. And that may not be good in that particular instance, but society is better off knowing that no one is going to go to jail unless the state can prove their guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So you're participating in the improvement of society, even though that one guy may go off and commit more crimes.
So have you ever seen that movie Lincoln Lawyer with Matthew McConaughey? Not the series, the movie.
Yeah, the movie.
No. It's like in the spoiler alert. In the movie,
if you've seen that 15-year-old movie,
in the movie, he thinks he's innocent at the beginning, and then he finds out he's guilty, and there's all this stuff going on, and then he's stuck. He has to. It's not like he can just he's legally obligated to still try and get him off, right? So
yep.
Is that real? You can't.
Well, a lawyer can always attempt to withdraw from a case with the court's permission, but that motion can't be made on the grounds that my client is guilty. You can make it on the grounds my client isn't paying me. You can make it on the grounds of a conflict of interest, or I'm sick, or something like that. You can be allowed to leave, but you can't just come to the judge and say, he did it. Please don't make me represent him. That's not a thing that you can do.
Gotcha. Okay, I won't go off on all the movies, the lawyer movies. I really like lawyer movies because they're like, what's going to happen next? Because it seems like it's I don't know, it's not
There's a lot of drama.
Yeah, and I'm sure in real court, it's not quite that exciting. And the movies make it a little bit more.
It can be. In a real case, you might have hours and hours of real boring testimony and document review interspersed with a few moments of real intense interest. That's where we start talking about the affair or the person embezzling money or, whatever it is that happened. But to get to that part, you need to get all of the evidence in front of the judge to make all that make sense. So the TV shows and the movies kind of compress the boring parts.
Yeah.
And get right to the exciting parts. That's why a client comes in at the beginning of the show and you're in trial by the end of the show. That doesn't happen in real life.
Well, and some trials can take like years and years, right? Like
That's unusual. A case can take years and years, but a trial itself usually takes place within a week or two. Although complicated trials, I think, like the O.J. Simpson trial, that went on for like months.
yeah, I would not have wanted to be.
Well, he had like
Jury.
6 lawyers.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember actually watching the verdict at my school when that one came out.
Yeah.
And I was in elementary school. And we watched the verdict. That's how so
It was one of the most celebrated cases, TV cases ever.
so okay, so back to estate planning a little bit.
Sure.
What would you say is the most common myth that you would like to get debunked in estate planning?
The most common myth, and this is weird for me because it seems so obvious to me, but a lot of people think that having a will avoids probate. And it's exactly the opposite. All wills have to go through probate. It's just a document that gives the probate judge instructions on what you want done with different assets and how you want it done, or whether you want to set up trusts for people who are not to be trusted with money, or kids who are under the age of 18. So there's instructions to the judge what to do, but you're in probate court. And in Florida, that's going to take anywhere from, on average, 9 months to a year, unless you've got a complicated asset. And since we're talking about business owners, businesses are complicated assets. It's not, you can't sell a business like you can sell stocks and bonds. It takes time, and sometimes you need to do things to the business to get it ready to be sold. And that's the stuff that can cause delays.
So probate, that's just like a type of court, kind of like criminal court.
It's like bankruptcy court for dead people.
Okay.
You die, and we're going to decide what happens to your assets. And if you didn't tell us in a will or some other document what's going to happen to your assets, we have default rules as to what's going to happen to your assets. And doesn't matter whether you like it or not, doesn't matter if that's what's right to your family. These default rules are going to apply to you as a matter of law because you never took the time to actually come up with your own plan.
And those laws are different depending on which state you're in?
Yes, every state has different, they're called intestacy laws. You're going to find commonalities between them. Probably the worst default rule that Florida has, in my opinion, is for blended families. If you're in a blended family and you have kids from a prior relationship and you die without any kind of an estate plan, 50% of your assets are given to your current spouse and 50% of your assets are given to the kids. All the kids. And it doesn't matter if your kids are 3 or 5 or 6 years old, they get 50% of your assets. And Florida state does that to prevent the accidental disinheritance of stepkids. But it can create absurd results. I mean, if you're a business owner, your 6-year-old from a prior relationship is now a co-owner of your business with your current spouse. That makes no sense. So the 6-year-old needs a guardian to represent their interests, and guess who that guardian is going to be?
Your ex.
The ex. That's right. So now your lack of planning has caused your ex-spouse to be business partners with your current spouse, and you know that's going to work out well. These are the things that we can avoid when you actually sit down with a lawyer and talk things through as to how should I organize my estate.
Gotcha. So when did you open your firm, and has your firm always done estate planning?
Yeah, my firm always has done estate planning. I've opened it, I think, in 2017. I was working for another firm that was terribly mismanaged. They had 3 states, multiple offices in different states. I think in Florida they had like 4 different offices, and they mismanaged it down to 2 states and 2 offices, mine and one in Colorado. And then even in my office, I was a partner in the firm, partners just started quitting until I was the last man standing. And then the staff came to me and said, Ed, you need to quit and please take us with you. And they said, here's what we'll work for. Just please do this because we can't stand working for this place. And so I went to the business owner and I said, listen, I'll take over your lease. I'll take over your payroll. I will collect your accounts receivable for you. We're leaving. And they said, okay, can you start next week? Because payroll is due next week. And they didn't have the money to cover payroll. Yes, they were mismanaging things. They owed me like $30,000 because they hadn't paid me, and they had been slow paying staff. Payroll was due on what was supposed to be paid on the 15th. They wouldn't get paid until like the 18th or the 20th when we had the money to pay you. So the first week, I had to create a law firm in a week, website, emails, everything, learn how to do stuff like that. And then I had to drive to each employee's bank to deposit their first paycheck because I wasn't able to get it to them any other way so that they would be paid on time. And I made a commitment that I am never going to slow pay my staff because they are still hurting from their past experience with that.
Yeah, I think it's because I've been an employee before. I've had times where I might not get paid, but anybody that works for me is going to get paid.
Yes.
Like, that is happening.
Right.
So I can understand why you would make, that was pretty awesome, going to each person's bank.
If any other way of depositing would result in at least a one business day delay. And I was out of time. It had to be done.
So would you say that was your biggest challenge of opening your firm? Was opening your firm?
That was one big challenge, although my wife was so much happier because, like I said, they had owed me like $30,000. And she had said to me, at least now, if the firm can't pay you, we'll know ahead of time. And that at least lets us plan things out. Just not having a paycheck show up when you're expecting it to show up, you got to move things around and accommodate for that.
Boggles me that a company that has several branches wouldn't be able to.
Oh, they were down to just 2 branches. My branch was making most of the money.
So did they ever actually catch up with you for your pay?
Well, I made that was part of the arrangement with them. I said, I will collect your accounts receivable, but I get paid first. And then I'll collect everything else and I'll pay it over to you. And they said, okay, yeah, that's good.
And they caught up on all the employees too?
Well, I paid the next payroll.
Oh, okay.
So
well, you said slow play, so I was like, are they behind?
They all the employees got paid. I got paid eventually out of their AR.
So how long did it take until you were like
whole?
Yeah.
It's probably sometime, let's see, this was beginning of December of 2016 or 17. So I think I got made whole by the end of January, maybe sometime in February.
Oh, that's pretty quick.
Yeah. They had a lot of AR that they hadn't collected.
See, that boggles the mind.
Very common problem with business owners is they feel uncomfortable asking for payment for my services.
If someone is 2 days late, we're notifying them. That's probably the accountant in me, but we're going to get paid. So
that was one of, and I made the same mistakes as I started out my law firm. I didn't know how to run a business. So I would just do good work, invoice clients, and then I would sit and wait. And hopefully the clients would pay, and maybe it would be paid on the 15th, maybe it'd be paid on the 30th. Maybe I didn't get paid and I had to start making phone calls. It wasn't until years later that I discovered that I can use my IOLTA account as a way of getting the payments in before I do the work. And it's in the money is in the IOLTA account, so it's still their money. It doesn't belong to me until I earn it. And then I can pay myself out of the IOLTA account. And then I didn't have AR or didn't have as much AR. And it actually created a situation where if clients ran into money troubles and they weren't able to pay, a lot of people don't want to say, hey, I can't pay you this month because they feel embarrassed. But if I'm asking them to replenish the IOLTA account, I'm still paid in full and there's still some money left in there. And then they say, I can't pay you. I need till next month. Now we can have a conversation because we can slow things down. We can budget the case. We can hold off on the estate plan signing. We can spread payments out. It forces a conversation to occur that wouldn't have occurred if you just billed someone and then hoped and prayed that they were going to pay and feel uncomfortable about calling them and asking for payment.
I think it's because in accounting, we do we do a lot of asking people for money because that's a big part of our job. So like when I was working in corporate America, part of our job was, you haven't paid yet. I'm going to have to put your account on hold, or da 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 da. So that wasn't one of my issues. I had issues when I first started opening, and you don't realize, like what you said, you think that, oh, I'm good at my job, so I'm going to be a successful business.
Right.
But then you open your business and you're like, yeah, I don't know anything about marketing.
Nope.
And what do you mean? The people don't just come to me and ask me for a job. I have to go out and find them.
That's right.
Because when I was in
No one
corporate
tells you that.
America, the HR person just goes, interview these 3 people and
Right.
tell me which one you like. And it seems like common sense, and I'm not a dumb person. But
This would actually be a great side business for you, is to also offer your clients, we know how much your AR is because it's right here in your report. If it goes over 30 days, we'll go collect it for you for this fee.
that's already a part of our
Oh, good.
monthly thing. We do AR. Yeah, we put a client on a procedure for AR. We mostly deal with construction trade, so we always say you need to get a deposit, because in my mind, if somebody has already paid something, they have a vested interest in it, so they're more likely to pay the rest. So you do a small deposit, and also that's pretty traditional in the construction field. And then you'll say, okay, this is when the rest of this money is due, and then this is what we're going to do after. This is the procedure for the initial invoice going out. This is the procedure a month after, when they're 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and it progresses. So you start off you start off quite nice, going, hey, this invoice is a little late. If you could contact us and try to arrange something with us. And then it gets a little bit meaner and a little bit meaner. Well, not meaner, but professionally meaner. I don't know how else to say it. It gets meaner. But if you have that plan and you do the same thing with every single client, it's just like, I'm big on policies and procedures, because you can always fall back on that, especially with AR. So if someone goes, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that, I'm so sorry. That is our policy. And that it is the policy that applies to every
handcuffs.
single...
I can't change.
And even some of our customers have said that it makes it a whole lot easier for them to collect money and stuff, because they essentially say we're the bad guys. They go, my accountant will kill me if I say yes to that. So
you have to set the relationship up with proper expectations. And I've had other lawyers say, how can you ask people to pay in advance? I'm like, you just say it, but won't they not hire you? No, they wouldn't have contacted me if they weren't willing to pay for legal services. It's not that difficult to simply stand up for yourself as a business owner and say, yes, this is the scope of the work we're going to do for you, and this is how much it's going to cost. We require payment of X percentage in advance. We need another X percentage on this date. We need another X percentage on this date. And that's going to be in the contract that we write. Do you have any questions? And then that sets the expectation for the relationship. And that way you don't have to stop work, especially on a construction project, because you didn't get the next payment. And the owner or whoever the customer is says, well, I didn't know I had to pay you by a certain deadline, but this work needs to get done. So now we have a problem.
And those same philosophies, I think, can be, even I use them in our firm now, because when I send a tax return, I send everything. I send everything I've done. And so someone could just take that tax return, go into TurboTax, and essentially do it themselves. So we had started doing a thing where it's like 25% of our fee has to be paid ahead of time. And then once we complete the tax return, we'll do the rest. There's some exceptions for some clients that we're in a rotation with them for another way. But there was some times where it was like, I did their tax return, I sent it to them, and I wouldn't hear from them for a month.
They feel uncomfortable. You feel uncomfortable. And all of that uncomfort could be avoided by having the proper conversations at the beginning of the relationship and documenting it in the initial contract, which is why you should have your contracts drafted by a lawyer.
Do a service agreement. That's what I was suggested by the business attorney. And she put up like a template for me and stuff like that. So that's what I use. But yeah, I use that now. So for the most part, we mainly use that for the monthly people, but there's a process that we use for tax returns because tax returns are like a once a year type thing, whereas like our monthly is every month. It's the same as if you were going to build a fence or something like that. You want to make it so that it doesn't matter who's doing it in your company. It's your process. Because in your company, you're not just selling accounting or law advice. You're selling your version of the accounting, your version, your process on how you do this. So that's the big thing that I tell clients is and if you have this process in place, then it doesn't matter if I do it or Mickey Mouse does it. It's the same thing every single time.
Cool.
Okay, so we'll rotate out of accounts receivable a little bit. So what is the best advice that you've ever been given about running your business?
The best advice, other than the accounts receivable thing, have the courage to grow. It takes courage to grow because you have to assume that if I do this, this is going to happen. And, there's always the chance that things aren't going to work out the way that you hope. And the decisions that you're making, like trying new advertising or hiring a new employee, it can hurt you if it doesn't work out right. And I've hired employees that ended up hurting my business, but you can't allow yourself to sit in your fear of making the decisions that you know you need to make in order to actually grow the business, especially when you get your business to a point where you're comfortable. You're making enough money, you're paying the bills, maybe having a little extra to put aside. That's where it becomes where you stagnate because you're not willing to take that risk to try something different or do something new that you have to if you're going to continue to grow the business.
Yeah, that is pretty hard because, especially when you're hiring on people, you can't make more money if you don't have more employees or you don't have more people that can do the work. And your fear is that I'll hire this person on, I'll not be able to pay them, and then I'll have to fire them. And what if they were a really good employee and then they find another job? But if you don't make that leap, you'll never know.
Right.
And if you don't have that person, you can't take on more work. And so I know a lot of people get stuck in that loop.
I think a good rule of thumb is if the business owner is working more than 30 hours in actually producing the work, you need to hire someone because at that point, you no longer have much capacity to grow. Because if you start taking on an extra 10 hours of work a week, you now no longer have time to do any of the administrative tasks, review any of the marketing, look at anything because you're just working. You're just producing whatever it is that your business produces. If you're up to 30 hours, you should be hiring at that point and then drop yourself back down to 10 hours. And then you've got time to go market and network and review your marketing and advertising and go get new business because no one else is going to do that for you.
Yeah, and it's really hard to you can hire a salesperson, but is the salesperson going to do what you do? Because a lot of times for businesses, you're selling yourself, especially in our industry, we're selling us, not because there are lots of lawyers, there are lots of accountants. So you end up, and so a salesperson isn't necessarily going to sell you as well as you. So,
and this brings it back into estate planning discussions that I have with business owners is what happens to the business if you get sick? If you're incapacitated, does the business die because it was so dependent upon you? Or does business keep on going because you've got great employees who do what you do, maybe even better? I mean, it's not hard I keep using the plumber. If I'm an electrician It's not hard to hire someone who will sell better than you.
Yeah.
Same thing with lawyers. Lawyers think that we're just brilliant. I went to law school, so no one can sell my services better than me. And that's probably not the case. You could hire other people to do a better job than you. You just have to make sure that they're properly trained, so they're not trying to give legal advice.
And processes.
Yes.
Procedures.
Yes.
My favorite word is procedures.
I completely agree with you. I have written procedures for a whole bunch of stuff.
So I have a cool question. So if you could go back to teenage Ed, what advice would you give him to make you more successful?
Teenager Ed. Let's see. I'd probably begin with talking about college, that college is not a extension of your childhood. You should know what you want to do with your life before you go to college. And if you don't, it's okay to take some time before you go to college. I spent 4 years pursuing a physics degree and decided in my senior year that wasn't for me. So I basically just wasted 4 years. Although I learned a lot of good math, a lot of that math is not particularly useful in the regular world. So having a better focus for your life is really important. And looking at what you're good at. That's one of the things that made me go to law school, was I had friends who were advising me and said, we know what you're like. You debate us on everything and you usually win. You would be really good in law school because that's your personality. And I never saw myself that way. But they definitely saw myself that way. So getting advice from other people about what they think you're good at, because if you do something you're good at and you enjoy it, you've got the perfect career.
Can you send an 18-year-old off to college? They're 18. We call them adults, but I know I wasn't making the best decisions at 18. I joined the military because honestly, I don't know at this point. I wanted to, the 9/11 had happened and all of this stuff. And I thought I was going to be this badass and all of this stuff. And so I'm like, all the stuff that was going through my head when I signed that contract wasn't the greatest. Those are not good reasons to do something. And you're trying to figure, you've lived with your parents this entire time. You don't want to necessarily listen to your parents because that's all you've been doing. So you want to make a decision that's on your own. So it's a really difficult place to be. So with my kids, I go, what's your favorite subject? Take that, find all the careers in your favorite subject, pick one of those.
Yeah, at least to start off with.
Or just go for a business degree.
Or, don't feel bad about joining the military, because the military is often a really good place to go if you don't know what to do and you have a hard time making decisions, because that will give you the structure and you will probably not enjoy it, which will force you to think about what else do you want to do with your life.
Don't get me wrong. I criticize the reason why I did it, but a good majority of the reason I am the person that I am today is because I spent that time in the military, and it was a good thing for me. It's not a good thing for everybody. It's not the perfect solution for everybody, but it really focused me. And so when I went to college, I was laser focused. I made really good grades. I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
Yep.
And my college was paid for. So I really appreciate the military, and I'm a big advocate of veterans and everything like that. I do think you should maybe do it for better reasons than I did.
If you don't know what to do with your life.
Yeah, and I didn't. I was like, I could
go look at them as an option.
I could go to college. I could do this. I could do that. And I just didn't. So, and I was kind of the wild 18-year-old. So
that's the biggest thing that advice to a teenager, and you can do this to your own teenagers, is to just sit down and talk to them about where do you want to be 10 years from now when you're 28? Do you want to be married? Do you want to be in a house? Do you want to be in a career? Do you want to be making a lot of money? Do you want to be doing something that you love? Because kids don't think about that. They think about video games and the next football game and does that girl like me? Their brains are wired differently than when you're 30, 35 years old. So force them to sit down and talk, maybe even come up with a written plan. Like, what do you want to be? Let's talk about what it takes to get there. That would have been a great conversation for me when I was a teenager.
Yeah, I tried to do that with my son, and he was like, I'm going to be a photographer. I go, no. Here are the. He ended up going into business intelligence, and he actually recently just graduated with his master's in sports analytics. He got his bachelor's in business intelligence, and then he got a master's in sports analytics. It takes like what I do with the analysis and stuff and like applies it to players, and it's like some pretty.
That is one of the biggest fields of statistics that I personally have experienced seeing, is how they figure out, who's got the advantage, or, who's got the momentum, or who's on the injured list, and it all affects the numbers.
I remember saying that to somebody and they were like, he went into sports analytics, and I go, do you realize how much overlap that has in the business world? And you can take those same skills and use them in a company, or you can use them on a construction project, or you can use it for hiring. So yeah, you hear sports analytics, but it gave him a big skill set.
You asked me about the Lincoln Lawyer. Have you seen Moneyball?
Yes.
That is the power of numbers and statistics applied to a particular business that you wouldn't have thought that it was applied to. And you got some very, very weird, interesting results.
Yes. Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite movies with Brad Pitt in it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I sat him down, and with him, it was like, you can go here, here, and here. And what he needed was, he had a million choices. We had COVID. So his first year, he didn't actually get to leave home. He was doing school from his first year of college was. And then, so when he went off into college, he was like, well, I guess I don't want to be a biologist anymore. And then he's like talking to friends and seeing all the options. It was too many options for him. And so I was like, okay, I'll narrow it down for you. These three. And it ended up working for him, but I would not suggest that for most kids. It was just, he needed the narrowing down so that he could logically make a decision. But my other son, if I had even suggested something for him to do in college, he would have done the opposite.
Yeah, that comes into estate planning a lot too, because advice that you have for your kids now that they may not receive because it's coming from you, if it's built into your estate plan, it takes the emotional side of it out because you're not around anymore. So you can provide in your estate plan, I want my kids to go to college and my trust will pay for the college, or I want my kids to travel back to the old country where we came from so they can experience the culture. They may never have accepted that kind of advice from you, but if it's provided for in the estate plan and it's all paid for, then that changes things. Because the emotional stuff is out of it, and now there's just an opportunity presented to the kid. They still might not accept it, but there's the option.
Yeah. Well, and even he has come back to me. He goes, I really wish I would have listened to you when I was 18. And he's 26 now. So, I mean, it didn't take too long, but some people just have to make their own mistakes.
One of my favorite plans that I've put together for a number of clients is where they had a kid who was addicted to something. So they've got lifestyle problems. And of course, when the parents say you need to go to rehab, that's not an accepted response. The kid is going to lead their own life and not care about what the parents say. And they come to me thinking we need to disinherit this kid, because if he inherits any money from us, they're going to kill themselves. It's going to be self-destructive.
Yeah.
So I can tell them, well, look, we can set up a trust for them. And the trust's instructions are, it will pay for rehab as many times as they need to go through in order to test clean for a year. If they test clean for a year, you start giving them some of the money out of their trust. If
Mhm.
they test clean for 3 years, you give them more money out of the trust. If they test clean for 5 years, you give them the rest of the money in the trust. And now the money that you thought you were going to have to disinherit this kid for, it creates a path for them to accept a chance at a second life. And now they're not only getting their money, but it gave them a brand new life as a clean, sober person that
Mhm.
maybe they wouldn't have done if it was just you telling them that they had to do it. I love doing those kinds of plans because it gives me a great deal of hope that this kid's life might be turned around.
Yeah, oh, I couldn't imagine. Yeah, that is really, really hard to think about nobody wants their kids to be alcoholics or drug addicts or
It's not your
anything
choice.
like. I know.
They
Yeah.
they come to me with the kids that they have,
Yeah,
and I ask the hard questions. What is this kid's life like? What's going on with them? And that's where I find out the problems that maybe we can fix.
I would hate to think that I don't know, it's sad in my head because it's like that, you know, they didn't do it while you were alive, like kind of thing, but I don't.
The same advice, the same opportunities might not be accepted.
Yeah.
And while you're alive, you need your money
Yeah.
to live. So we're talking about what happens if you're not going to be around anymore. And if we can create hope for this kid where originally you had no hope, the clients actually leave with a much better peace of mind because now they've got a plan that maybe will turn their kid's life around, even if they're not around to help them.
It's got to be really, really hard. From my perspective, you're planning for worst case scenarios, so you're always thinking worst case scenarios. And I am such a rainbows and butterflies, and we can make this happen if we try really hard. We'll get bumps in the road, but we can get over, like that type of person.
Mm-hmm.
That looking at worst case scenarios all the time, it doesn't affect you, or you're just used to it at this point.
No, I view it. What I like about estate planning is that it gives me an opportunity to fix problems before they happen. When I do litigation, everyone who comes to me who's either suing someone or is being sued by someone, the problem's already happened.
Yeah.
No happy, content people with no problems come to lawyers. They don't need us. So I can either have a career where I'm dealing with people who are facing problems that they can't solve by themselves, and now we have to have a lawsuit over it. Or they can come to me to do estate planning, and I can help them solve and fix and avoid problems before they ever happen, which is way more satisfying.
Yeah.
So I like having those conversations with people.
I can see that. And then the people feel better because they know that they have a plan. And if you have a plan, then you're like, oh, I don't have to worry about that because I have a plan.
Yep. It does give a lot of peace of mind, except for those people who there was one woman that I was standing in line with. Both of our kids were in a karate class. And, we're talking about what do we do for a living? I said, I do estate planning. And she said, oh, I don't want to get a will because I think if I have a will, I'll die. It's like the umbrella theory. If I don't bring an umbrella, it's going to rain. If I bring an umbrella, it's not going to rain. And I said, well, I kind of chuckled and said, well, that's not actually. She turned around and she walked away with her kids still in class and walked down the hallway really fast. Like this was serious. If she had even a conversation about this, she's going to die. So some people are intensely uncomfortable with those conversations, but it's way better to plan ahead because then you do get that peace of mind. Like if I hope nothing happens, I expect nothing will happen, but if it does, I have a plan in place. It's like buying insurance.
Okay. So personal question. Do you have an estate plan?
I do. I have an estate plan and it's been revised, and I've got a great story for when we revised it. The second to last time that we had our plan updated, my youngest son was still in either middle school or high school. So he was too young to manage money. And my older kids are much older. They're in their 30s. The middle one was in her upper in like 28 or so. So we had a plan that had trust planning for my youngest son, and our middle daughter and my sister would be co-trustees, and it managed his money until he got to a certain age. And that's very standard kind of planning for a minor kid. When he turned 18, he went and got a job at Publix. And he came to me and he said, "Dad, can you help me set up my Roth IRA or 401k with Publix? Because I want to put like half the money I earn into an S&P 500 ETF. And so it could just start growing right now." And I'm like, "You're 18. I don't think your older siblings are doing this." And I told my wife, maybe we should be putting him in charge of their trust. And so we revised the estate plan, and now I took out all the trust restrictions on him because he was going to be fine. He had grown up right.
I don't think I know I wasn't thinking about that when I was 18.
He's now in his final year of college, and he's still putting at least $50 a month into his IRA from wherever he's earning money. He's a music education major, so he's still putting money aside into his IRA. He's doing great.
Doing better than I am.
He's doing better than a lot of people. But yes, so we do have an updated estate plan.
Okay. Well, the reason that I asked that question is because, like, a lot of people in the field, like, they could be really good at their jobs, but it's like, if you went into my accounting books, it's probably not as good as my clients. So I wonder, like, how much, and there has been a few people, they're like, yeah, not the best at keeping up with my own stuff, but my client stuff is good. So, which tends to happen. But you haven't fallen into that trap.
No, not yet.
So besides business, what does Ed Gegan do for fun when he's not writing up estate plans?
You know, I'm in my 60s now, and our big dream is to buy a vacation house up in Crystal River. My wife and I love the area up in Citrus County between Crystal River and Inverness. So we spend a lot of weekends up there just experiencing the culture and getting out of the congestion, especially nowadays. It's just gotten worse and worse around the Tampa area. So we go to a lot of open houses. We do a lot of dreaming and planning about what our future is going to look like, because we're empty nesters now as of 4 years ago. So that's that. A lot of our time is taken up doing that. Personally, I am a voracious reader, and my wife jokes with me that, you know, there was a time when I would refuse to buy Kindle books or electronic books, but I ran out of shelf space on my bookcases. I had like 3 bookcases, and after I went through several storing books in boxes and selling books at bookstores, and I refilled the bookcases with books that I had read, I said, okay, let me try the Kindle thing. I think I've bought maybe 10 hard copy or paperback books since then, because the Kindle stuff is just great. But it is so easy to buy books on Kindle. So I buy way more books now than I did in the past, because you would normally have to go into a bookstore to go buy a book. Now I can just hear someone say, "Oh, you should read this book," and I go online, download it. It's on my Kindle. I've got books on my Kindle I haven't even opened, just because I wanted to buy it, because I know this is a book that I want to read.
I got my first Kindle on my second deployment to Iraq. I really love reading books, and that was like the main thing that I did while I was over there. And the first deployment, I'm having to ship back tough boxes of books, because that's how many I went through. And so the second deployment, I got a Kindle. And the other thing was, I remember on my first deployment, I was in the middle of a series, and there was a cliffhanger in one of the books, and I was literally going from tent to tent asking, because it was like a very popular series at the time, going, "Do you have this book? Do you have this book?" Because it was going to be
I need to read the next one in the series.
It was 2 months to get it shipped out to Iraq.
Yeah.
Because that's just how long, and really being very mad at the person that got me into the series. I'm like, "Could you just tell me what happened?" She goes, "No, I can't. You have to read it." And I'm like, "I just need the first page." Like, I'm like sitting here
You're
like,
jonesing.
I need to know. And so, but with the Kindle, it made my life so much easier. There was no going tent to tent, because I could just
download it. As long as you have an internet connection.
Though I think, well, I had to like So we had to like go to the computer, plug it in, and then I could buy the books from there because we didn't have Wi-Fi.
The only other thing I think I spend my time on, and I've now developed a habit of like posting every weekend of what did Ed research this weekend. And those are my words that I start out the post with. And I'll just research any weird thing that usually having something to do with economics or politics or international relations, because that brings me back to my policy analyst days when I thought about, you can actually come up with the right plan if you think about it. So I'll do the research and then I'll post something and then people ignore it.
See, I'm not shocked about that knowing what I know about you. I guess I just always assumed that you were like researching on a computer
all the time. I can't turn my brain off.
Going down rabbit holes and like ending up with that's what I was imagining.
Yep. I think my last one was on the effects that the Iran war was going to have on oil prices and China. And everything I said in my post was mostly coming true.
Yeah.
It's just fun for me. I know other people look at it and like, why would you use your free time to do stuff like this? For me, it just keeps my mind active and I enjoy it. I like thinking about it.
I like doing the research on things, like especially if I get a client and they're like, oh, what about this? And I'm like, give me a minute. I'll go look at it. And hopefully I have information after that. But I do like going down some of those rabbit holes, but I have to be careful of those rabbit holes because I can get obsessed sometimes. So I have to like set a time frame. I will not go over this amount of research time on this.
Why? Why? If you enjoy it?
Because I have 4 kids at home still. I have this great skill that I can ignore everything that's going on around me. And I can like hyper focus. It's the ADHD.
Yes, I didn't want to expose a diagnosis, but yeah, that's ADHD.
Yeah, and so it drives my husband crazy because the kids will be like, ah, and I'm like, and I do not hear it. I have to actually focus.
Yep.
The world could be right. So I do have to set parameters.
I highly recommend the whole empty nester thing. For researching and focusing. It does make things much easier.
I have a little bit. My youngest is 9.
So you got a while to go.
Yeah, I did when I adopted my 2 teenagers when they were teenagers. And when they left, before we adopted the 4 that we have now, I did have my husband made me go at least 1 year to make sure that I was getting more kids because I wanted more kids, not just because I missed my kids, which I thought was...
That's fine.
He knows me pretty well. And I was very, very sad when the kids went off to college and it was COVID and I was, I had no one to take care of because my husband's a grown-ass man. So he doesn't really need, and I was doing a lot of that. So I understood why he did it. So we had that. And for me, it was like, I really wanted more kids. So now I have 4 kids and I'm like, maybe I should have enjoyed myself a little bit more.
Diversify your interests a little bit.
So I think I will be along the same lines as you when the kids do go. I won't be going, I need more kids this time because I'll already know what the...
If you have things that you enjoy doing other than the kids, then you're set up pretty well to enjoy your empty nester years. If your time is all focused on the kids and doing stuff with the kids and then the kids are gone, you don't have anything to replace it. So you have to go find new things. Otherwise, you're going to start pestering them for grandchildren, and children do not take well to that. So
they do not want to be forced.
That may actually delay the grandchildren production period.
So reverse psychology. Don't give me...
Well, no, you don't have to tell them no. But it shouldn't be the first thing you ask about every time you get together.
I think because we had the gap, and again, the gap happened, like my first went off to college and it was COVID, and I did follow a lot of those COVID restrictions. So I stayed at home a lot. COVID was weird for me.
COVID was weird for everyone.
I would come up with like, my husband worked during that time, and I was a little bit in between jobs during that time frame. And I would like after you get off work, you'd be like, "Okay, I found this conspiracy theory. I think it might be real this time." Like those types of conversations.
Conspiracy theories about the coronavirus? No.
And then have to have my husband go, "Okay, LaDonna, you're a logical person. Let's talk through this." So there was some weird stuff. That's how weird it got for me because I was a little too much in my head.
Yep. I get it.
And the internet, you have to be careful with the internet. Just because it's on the internet does not make it true. You have to have resources
And that is doubling now with ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is an idiot sometimes. You ask it things, and especially with legal stuff. Before we came in here today, I was asking ChatGPT a question about powers of attorney because someone had said to me, "Don't I need to get my power of attorney signed by the agent that I've appointed?" I was like, "No, of course not." And then I decided, well, let me just go look that up to make sure. And I asked ChatGPT, and they said, "Oh, yes, the agent has to sign the acceptance of the power of attorney in order for it to be effective." And I was like, "No, that's wrong, ChatGPT. Go look that up again." And they looked up again and they repeated it. And I said, "Show me the statute." And they gave me the statute, and I went up on my computer and I researched the statute. And I said, "Read the statute again, because that's not what it says. It says this, this, and this." And ChatGPT eventually said, "Yes, you're right. I was wrong. I misspoke." So yeah, the internet is wrong on all kinds of things, even when AI is in charge of it.
I've been cautious about the ChatGPT about like, especially for like tax code or whatever. I guess, I mean, in my stuff,
yeah.
I can just go on the internet and go tax code for this deduction or tax code, and I just go straight to the tax code because I'm afraid that I'm
That
gonna
is
get
what it's good for.
poor information for ChatGPT. Like, and I'm just paranoid because I don't want to do the wrong thing, and then a client gets audited or something like that. And I'm the same way. If someone tells me something different, I'm like, "Do I know that wrong?
Yeah, because
Let me go look."
it's been a while since I looked at the statute. People make changes.
Yeah. Well, and then you deal with this too, where laws change very frequently. Like tax code, I've done tax returns. Like sometimes people come in and I have to like help them with several years of tax returns, and something that applies in 2024, it's not going to apply in 2025.
Right.
And if you don't stay up on that, you'll tell someone something from like 23 or 24 and it doesn't apply now. Like the tax code literally changes every single year.
Yes.
And I'm sure it's the same for, well, probably a little less for estate planning. Huh?
A little less than that. We've got a couple of thousand years of law behind estate planning that has accumulated. When I do an estate plan, it might be like yay thick, but with all of the various documents that I create. And a lot of that is just the accumulation of wisdom of various courts and lawyers and estate planning attorneys who just have all this boilerplate language that deals with every possible thing that could possibly happen. And it all goes into the new form, and then something will change in the law, and then all the forms need to be updated, which is why it's important for attorneys to hire service companies to alert them as to when there's a change in the law or when there's a new technique that estate planning attorneys are using to accomplish something. I guess this is a long way of saying be careful of using forms on the internet to do estate planning. Be careful of accepting advice from ChatGPT, and be careful of getting estate plans done by someone who does personal injury, criminal defense, workers' comp, and we also will do your will for you for $300, because typically that's going to be a fill in the blank form that you could have found on the internet.
I know I've sent people to you and you have helped me myself, and I have learned it's way more cost effective to just have someone like you do it in the first place, because after you die, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
And I know that I've had people that like they're navigating the system without an estate plan, and there has been like one person that I know of, he was like, "This has been going on for a year and I just want it to be over." Like, I just want it to be over. Definitely saving $100 now is not going to save you $100 later. It could mean that you're spending $1,000 later.
The most expensive mistake that I see people make because of something they read on the internet is when people see that if you own property jointly with your kids, it'll avoid probate. And that's true. When you die, it'll go to your kids because they're a joint owner of the property. However, it creates tens of thousands of dollars of capital gains taxes that could have been avoided. And this gets back into your area because if you inherit property, the IRS will magically treat you as if you bought it for whatever the market value is on the day of death. So if your kids sell the property in the same year, they pay zero capital gains tax because they're selling it for essentially what they're treated as having purchased it for. But if they get it because you put them on a joint ownership of the property with them, thinking that's going to avoid probate, which it does, now they didn't inherit the property. They got the property because they're essentially your business partner. And so you don't get that step up in capital gains tax basis that you would have gotten if you had simply inherited it. That is an easy problem to fix, but impossible to fix after someone dies or becomes incapacitated if they don't have the capacity to sign a new deed.
Like I said, you're like a wealth of knowledge, which we look forward to learning more about for business owners on June 2nd when you do your webinar to give us what we need to know as business owners for estate planning.
Yes, I'm going to be talking about what questions that business owners should ask their estate planning attorney to get the most value out of your time with that attorney, because you don't want to be just one of the clients where things get filled in the blank. And estate planning is done on a fixed fee, mostly. So whether you have 10 questions or 1 question or 50 questions, the fee is typically going to be the same. You just don't know what questions to ask. So hopefully I'll be able to address that during the webinar.
I am sure everybody will get tons of knowledge. You should watch this webinar because even if you think that you don't need it, you need it. And thank you so much for coming on, Ed. It was great to talk to you and learn a little bit more about you. And as always, I've even learned some stuff today. So
good to hear.
Thank you again.
Thank you for inviting me.
Again, this was another episode of the Foxy Business Hour with LaDonna Garvin. And thank you again for watching this. If you can like, subscribe, or if you have any questions, put them down in the comments. And even for Ed, we can send them to him. Again, have a great one and see you next time.